Week 8, here we are. And starting off with a barn burner. Yeah, Chargers and the Vikings. Wentz versus Herbie. Wow, what a way to start it. Yep, I could be knitting right now or, learning Spanish or something. But here we are, week 8. I can't blame Amazon. It is what it is, but it's football. We'll take it. Nutmeg, how are we doing tonight?
Buccs McGee, might I say, Sunday Scaries on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Yeah, this is the Ocho. We could simulcast with the American Cornhole League, and I think that would get better ratings at this point because Carson Wentz is a hot mess. I just there's nothing to it. When Herbie's your leading rusher in the game, it looks like it's just it's just a rough one.
Yeah, Kamani Vidal not looking like the fantasy waiver wire specialist in the wake of Amari Hampton's injury.
He's not, but he's blocking downfield. He's getting Herbie those lanes, and I think the Chargers have found their tight end of the future there in Gadsden. This kid all of a sudden has exploded out of nowhere, and the Chargers are doing what they need to do.
Yeah, let's talk about that because this very much is a Chargers offense awakening. I mean, they've taken a couple on the chin, but Gadsden had a little bit of a coming out party last week against my Colts in defeat, and he's picking up right where he left off in this game. And he's such a big target. It's hard not for Chargers fans to think, reminisce back to the Antonio Gates days.
Oh no, definitely. He seems like he's got some speed to him, and he's a big target. And I think that's what one of the things the Chargers were missing. That guy in the middle who can really stretch the field and not key in on the receivers. So I think they found a diamond in the rough, and it should help this offense going forward. But at the end of the day, the Vikings are just a mess. Their offense just can't put anything up. So when that happens, doesn't matter how good your defense is. Your defense is going to start giving up plays, and that's what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, it's quite the flip of a script from earlier in the season where we're like, wow, yeah, this Vikings defense is very good.
JJ McCarthy was actually moving this team around, and they had some offense. Now it's just Wentz a bum left shoulder, and at this point, I don't know. It looked like they had a little something going, at the end of the half, but they missed the kick. So we'll see what happens going forward. But this team is really in disarray. They're really in need of JJ to come back.
Yeah, and it's not just Gadsden that's been hot of late too. Ladd McConkey over the last few weeks has finally shown up. I don't know whether it's them actually working him into the offense a little bit more, or maybe the Keenan Allen glow is dimmed a little bit, and Herbie remembers where his bread's buttered.
Well, I also think too with the run game kind of being an issue now with basically all your running backs injured, they've kind of gone back to what the Chargers were, which was a pass first, run second kind of deal. And, they've got these young guys. I think Herbie kind of defaults to Allen. They know each other. They've got that chemistry. He's kind of like that. He's that veteran who, won't let you down. He'll make the catch when you need him. So I think he's key to the growth of these other guys. But probably going forward, at least for the next few weeks, this is going to be a pass-heavy offense.
Yeah. A team that's often pass heavy versus run heavy and not knowing which is which, the Baltimore Ravens. And it looks like the tea leaves may be shifting towards getting Lamar Jackson back finally. However, is it too late? The Bears have been very up and down this year, but they're still 4-2. Is it too late for the Ravens? Will Caleb Williams kind of dice this up, and it doesn't really matter if Lamar's back?
Wow. Okay, so Lamar comes back. They were 1-5 with Lamar. It's just like, okay, so I don't know, man. It's not the offense, it's the defense. So the question is will there be any type of defense? The Bears are kind of starting to feel themselves, kind of getting into a rhythm. Caleb Williams, he's either all there or all not. So it's going to be interesting to see. But honestly, this is probably the first must-win game of the season. I think that we've talked about. If Baltimore has any chance of playoff aspirations or anything, they need to win this game. If the Bears all of a sudden start feeling themselves and handle business against Baltimore, I think it's a wrap. I don't trust Baltimore at all. I think it's just there's a lot of issues there. Their defense is horrible. I honestly think that maybe a new voice is needed in Baltimore now. Some people may tell me I'm nuts because they've been so successful, but they've been regular season successful, not playoff successful. So
Say it.
I don't,
Say it. Say it
you
enough, Bucks
know,
McGee. Speak it to existence.
it's one of those things. It's like, okay, so you're great in the regular season, but when the postseason comes, you're non-existent. So it's like, okay, whatever. You could be the greatest regular season team of all time. That doesn't get you rings. They need this game. And I don't know if Lamar's 100%, but their defense needs to show up big time. They need to show up. They're going to need to get some third down stops. They're going to have to, confuse Caleb a bit because I think sometimes Caleb still kind of has issues reading some defenses and tries to do too much, like in his USC days. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But right now, I don't trust Baltimore. So if you told me the Bears won this by, let's say, a field goal or something, I'd believe you.
Do you think it will be tight like that? Because a couple of weeks ago, we were fully expecting the Rams to put up a crooked number with their offense being what it was, and maybe it was partly doing to Puka's getting hurt in that game. But the Ravens were able to hold them down. They just could not put up any points behind Cooper Rush. Do you think the defense is capable of containing the Bears against maybe not so daunting an offense as the Rams previously brought to town?
I don't know. I don't know if this defense can do it. The Bears might be the team that all of a sudden puts up a 40 spot and looks all of a sudden unstoppable. Swift may run for a $120, $130. It may just be an ugly game. There's no kind of I can't look at Baltimore and say, okay, they're going to come in here and do A, B, C, and D and be able to handle Chicago. You don't know what you're going to get. We don't know how healthy Lamar is. So it's no, I have no trust. I honestly think Chicago could win this game.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift's very much been an undersung hero of the Bears offense of late this season.
Yeah, there's weapons there. It's not like they're a team void of offensive weapons. It's just if Caleb can get his head right and make the throws he needs to, throw it away when you need to throw it away, not try to do too much. If he can play within the construct of the offense and take what Baltimore's defense will give you, which for a lot of teams is a lot of points, Ben Johnson should be able to do something, and this team should win.
Yeah. Now, as far as teams in must-win situations, it's not just the Ravens. And it's weird to put that tag on the Buffalo Bills, but this is a Bills team that lost the Patriots, which doesn't look so bad right now, but at the time didn't look that great. And then they got a little embarrassed by the Atlanta Falcons, certainly not nearly to the level of the Patriots currently are. So the Bills, are they very much in a must-win getting down to Carolina, especially considering the fact that Bryce will be shelved for this one?
Yeah, this is a game you got to win, and now that New England, basically is leading the division, which is kind of like we thought maybe New England was going to be in the 10 to 12-year doldrum. All of a sudden, somehow, the waters of New England end up coming back and Drake May becomes the hero. Now, mind you, Carolina has played good this last month. Got to give them credit. But like you said, Bryce is out, with this high ankle sprain. So you got the Red Rocket. Got the man, Andy Dalton.
Ginger brethren.
Yeah, that's right. Your ginger brethren. Is he gonna show out for the Gingers? I don't know, but Buffalo's got to win a game. Carolina's an upstart team, but you've got the MVP as your quarterback, so he's got to show why he won the MVP, why he's the guy. So if Carolina sticks it to Buffalo, I don't know. Buffalo might be knocking on the door to the fraudulent
Yeah, what's
penthouse,
gonna
because
happen?
it's to the
What's
point
gonna
now
happen?
where if Buffalo loses, it's another team that for whatever reason can't get it done, and then the whispers, well, they'll be dull roars that the Chiefs are ready to, the Chiefs were never out of it. They were just rough, and everyone's going to start handing the AFC back to the Chiefs. But Buffalo should win this game. They have enough talent to do it. It's just whether they can just put together a solid game.
Yeah, it's funny how the shifting of the AFC is in, I don't want to say in flux, but how it's kind of evolving as the season progresses because, Buffalo's, like you said, Buffalo's letting the Chiefs back into it. The Chiefs have been very
Mm-hmm.
hot. We'll get into them more towards the end of the show. But to your point about the Patriots, it's funny how I've seen, it's kind of made its rounds around the internet lately how the NFL is 2005 all over again right now with the Colts at the top, the Patriots at the top, the Steelers at the top.
Like they say, fashion and music, it always comes back around. So here we are 20 years later, and the familiar teams are, up at the top or near. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. But Buffalo is going to have to start really playing well and winning games, because if they go on a losing streak, New England's going to start feeling themselves, and before you know it, Buffalo might be on the outside looking in.
And so far this season, the Patriots defense has looked very much more competent than the Bills defense.
Yeah, it's just they just seem to be playing within the framework of the defense, and they make plays. They've been a bit healthier. There's no doubt about it, but it's just they're young. I think what it is they're younger, and they just, and I hate to use this term because it's been thrown around for years, but they do their job. It is what it is.
Maybe it's all by design. Maybe Chauncey Billups has been interfering with Bills games as well.
Yeah, yeah. Better be careful, because we'll find out next week that Josh Allen's been betting on games and he'll get booted out. All hell will break loose. Or maybe Patrick and Travis been putting down some numbers. You never know.
Yeah.
You never
All of a
know,
sudden,
man.
the answer revealed to Travis Kelce's mysterious disappearance over the last couple of years.
That's how the rest of the league finally puts a knife in the Chiefs dynasty. They found out that they're gambling and all hell breaks loose. I don't know, but basically Buffalo needs the win. They've got to get back, in the win column and kind of get their rhythm back. But this could be a trap game. Who knows? Maybe Andy Dalton's feeling himself, and he's got one of those games like he had in Cincy where he'd throw for 330, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they pull it off. So Buffalo's going to have to be careful.
Yeah, and another team that's, as you alluded to last week, um, is dangerously close to knocking on the doors of the fraudulent penthouse, and that is the Denver Broncos. They did win, but I mean, it took a monumental effort against a less than stellar team in the Giants. Now they host the Cowboys, who have a much more dynamic offense than the Giants did.
Oh, I'm excited for this game. I really want to see if the Denver defense is legit. And right now, you've got to give Dallas credit. And believe us, we all make the Cowboy jokes. We're all like, yeah, whatever, blah blah blah. But you've got to give them credit. They can throw the ball. They've actually run the ball decently this year. So the offense is there. Their defense is horrible, but their offense is there. So Denver is going to have to make sure this doesn't become a track meet, because I don't know if Denver's offense can match up with them. I don't know, especially
No.
after last week's fiasco. I don't know if this gets into a 40 point romp, if Denver can do it. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially the Denver secondary with, last year's, defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain, if these guys are going to be able to hang with, Lamb, Ferguson, and these guys. It's going to be interesting.
Your favorite, George Pickens.
Oh yeah, George Pickens. It's I don't like. I give Pickens credit. He's behaved himself. Like that was the big question with him in Dallas. Was he gonna start crying if he wasn't gonna get the ball, or what was gonna happen? Now he kind of looked out. You don't want to see anyone get hurt, but when CD went out, he became Dak's best friend. So now we're gonna see how this offense is truly going to be. Are the tight ends going to suffer with less touches, or is it going to be one of these guys, in the wide receiver room? But if they can balance this out along with the run game, this game could be interesting.
Would you go as far as we put a couple must-win labels on a couple games already? Would you go as far as to put the must-win on the Broncos right now? Now, because the Broncos aren't necessarily in that situation of win or you're on the brink of elimination, but at the same time, like you said, they also need to prove a little bit. So it's maybe not a must-win label, but it's the landlord's notice. Would you put that label on them to keep them out?
Yeah, I would because of how Kansas City is starting to play now. So the thing is and we all love and want the Chiefs dynasty to die its death, and we can move on, and whoever takes over takes over. But you've got to give the Chiefs credit. They're getting healthy now. They've got some speed at the wide receiver position. So they're gonna start putting up some points. There's no doubt about it. Denver has to win these games, because if they don't, Kansas City will sneak up, and that's what it's slowly starting to look like, because these other teams in the AFC don't seem to want to be the team, because they've just fallen apart or they're on the verge of just collapsing. So Denver, showed some mettle last week, even though it really shouldn't have gotten to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a game where their defense is going to have to wake up and say, all right, we gave up 32 points to the Giants. What's Dallas going to do? So they're going to have to clean up some things. And I think if they can hold Dallas, hold them to about 20 points, and pull out a win, I think they're back to what they were at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, to that point, if the Giants score 33, then the Cowboys should score 45, and the Broncos, like you said, with the track meet argument, the Broncos are gonna have to. I mean, maybe they can because that Dallas defense is awful, but they might have to score 50, and it's like, can Bo Nix put up a 50 spot?
Yeah, the run game, the Denver run game is going to have to really be important. Evan Ingram's going to have to really show out if that's what it comes down to. If they're in the high 30s, low 40s, the ball, Bo Nix is going to have to throw the ball around. He's going to throw it around the yard to everybody. He's not going to be able to key in on one guy. But like you said, if Dallas's defense, is the defense that's been for the majority of the season, it may happen. But if I'm Denver, I'm going to hang my hat on my defense, shut this down or slow it down, and then just when you get the chance, you get the opportunities, you score and you get out with the win.
One of your favorite topics to discuss, and it's one of the headline, if not the headline game of the week, I suppose. Mr. Aaron Rodgers making his return to Lambeau, making his first appearance against the Packers. This is a very interesting game because we weren't expecting the Steelers to be in first place right now, and the Packers, they're in this NFC North jumble fest for first place. Who has more pressure on them here? I guess should be the question.
Oh, Green Bay. Green Bay has to win. Like you said, they play in the toughest division in football. Like, let's be real.
Another must-win label. Another must-win label this week.
Because let's be honest here. How right now it looks like, if we're looking at this game, the Vikings are going to lose this game. It's still early, but they're in last place, but they're 3-3, 500. And everybody else is above 500, and it's a slugfest. They can't slip. If the Steelers were to lose this game, okay, they lose it, but look how much room they have. By fault, they've got so much room where they can lose a game or two, and it's like, okay, because it's not like Cincinnati's catching them. But do you really Cincinnati?
We'll put a pin in that. Put a pin in that. We'll revisit it in a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. I'll put a pin in it because that's their dreams. You put a pin in it. Baltimore, unless they pull off one of the most miraculous turnarounds that we've seen, are probably going to limp to the end of the season because they can't figure it out defensively. And the Browns are the Browns. That's all there is to it. The Browns are the Browns. So I think the Steelers, if they lost, would be like, all right, yeah, it sucks, but they're not sitting there looking at their division saying, oh man, if Cincy wins, they're right back in it, or Baltimore wins, they're right back in it. There is some cushion. Yeah, you want to keep that cushion as high as possible, but it's all right. If Green Bay loses, Detroit won. The Bears could win. Like this division is no joke. The North.
The Bears should win.
It's because right now, if you had to pick between Detroit and Green Bay, who are you taking?
Oh God, that's not even close.
Exactly. So Green Bay, for all the hype that they got this year and all of this, are looking up, and they've got to figure it out. And so go ahead.
They look very, very different from the Packers team that beat the Lions in Week 1.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I think the Packers need this game. I would call it a must-win just for the aspect of the division they're in.
Are they also knocking on the door of the fraudulent penthouse?
No. I think they're solid. They haven't given me any reason to call them fraudulent. They play in a tough division. I give them, I wasn't sitting there saying, oh yeah, they're gonna, they're a favorite for the NFC. But a lot of people were once, they made the trade for Parsons. But, it was one of those things where, okay, the defense has gotten better, but people still questioned Love. It was, okay, is he going to make that one or two throws that, end up being an interception, or he makes that play that somehow, messes the offense up. So, no, I don't think they're fraudulent. I didn't have them that high. They were, they're top five, probably 5 or 6 team in the NFC, but I wasn't like, they weren't my pick to come out.
Are you expecting a big performance from Rodgers here? It is the homecoming. He has not played bad, certainly not as bad as we were expecting to play. And the Packers defense, as we've discussed in the past, has fallen off from where they started. So, should everyone expect a big performance from Aaron Rodgers?
I think Rodgers wants to stick it to him now. He said before, no, revenge is not on his mind, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, bullshit.
Get out of here, dude. You want to beat him in the house that, some people would say, the house that, Aaron built after, the Favre fiasco and, this, that, and the other thing. But no, I think he wants to go in there and he wants to handle business, but he also, I think, understands that he is not the Aaron Rodgers of 10 years ago, where he could run around and just sling it and fling it. So I think he's going to play within the offense. He's going to make his throws, but he's also going to let this defense, which has played well, do its thing.
Yeah. We bring back one of our favorite segments, Extra Points.
It's good.
And I'm not sure what to title this Extra Points segment, whether we call it teams in a make or break situation, teams that we stick the dagger in if they lose, season's completely done, or just a generic must-win situation, which apparently we've already labeled quite a bit of those on the show already for this week. The first one is I want to rehash the Cincinnati Bengals argument, because if for some reason the Packers were to pull the upset on the Steelers, that would bring Pittsburgh to 4-3. The Bengals are playing the winless Jets. So, barring this miraculous hoorah, win one for the Gipper, let's get our first win effort out of the Jets, the Bengals theoretically should win and be 4-4. That only puts them a half game behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, if they were to somehow lose to Green Bay.
You just said it. Win one for the Gipper. I don't think the Jets can go winless.
I'm sure they can. I'm sure they won't go winless, but I have very little doubts that they can stop JaMarr Chase, the man who can win a game by himself, because Joe Flacco would just target him 25 times in a game.
That's the thing. If you don't have to stop him. You just got to slow him down. And that's the thing. And if the Jets can do that and make this a snail's crawl type of game, they might be able to pull. Nick Folk may win this game for him, because at this point you don't know. I don't trust Cincinnati.
But you also have been on the record as not liking the Jets defense. So all of a sudden now the Jets defense has potential of shutting down this high powered offense.
Is it really high powered?
JaMarr Chase is.
Okay, so JaMarr Chase. Okay, but you can't run the ball worth a spit. But it's okay. So if you want to name them the Cincinnati Chases, then that's fine. The JaMarr Bengals, then that's fine. You can do that. But no.
Cincinnati Chases has a nice ring to it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we've seen how that's turned out for them. Yeah. I think Aaron Glenn is sitting there saying, you know what, we've got to figure something out, and this might be the game to do it. I don't trust Cincinnati. I don't. And yes, Joe Flacco yet again has had a great little wonderful story, traded within division and doing his thing. But if you're telling me that Joe Flacco is going to lead this team to the playoffs or lead some miraculous run, I'm not buying it. I'm not. I can't. I think he can throw the ball, and I give him credit, but there's going to be a point where some team with a great defense is going to crush them.
Oh yeah.
And the party's over. So I'll give the Jets a puncher's chance, because you never know. You never know.
I never thought I'd be the one defending Joe Flacco in this situation. You'd be the one throwing him under the bus.
And I appreciate what the guy's done. I give him credit, but they should win. But I just don't believe in Cincinnati enough to sit there cleanly and say, "Yep, they're going to handle business. They've got this."
No, I don't either. But just the fact that they're even in a position to backdoor their way to the top of the division again is kind of fascinating.
The division isn't good.
That is true. It is not.
The division isn't good. Now, if this was the North, NFC North, I'd say, damn, go ahead, Joe Flacco, work your magic.
Yeah.
But dude, you're literally falling over teams that just absolutely suck. Like the Browns, the Ravens. Like, dude, give us 52 guys. We'll do our thing. We might be able to win this division by default.
Yeah, I think we would. We've got a hell of a connection on the wigwam games.
Exactly, man. We were great back then. We could pull out 17 games. I'm hanging it up after the postseason because my knees and all whatever will fall apart, but I'm all about it. But maybe I'm wrong, and Cincinnati works some magic, and Joe comes back, and there you go, and it's a mysterious, miraculous run. But right now, they should beat the Jets. But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping for a Jet miracle.
Well, another team that could be in need of a miracle to get a victory is the Miami Dolphins. Is this the situation?
Why?
Well, this is an interesting one because, likewise, with the Jets, having maybe something in the tank to pull off a win of nothing more than pride. The Atlanta Falcons are coming off a very head-scratching loss to the Niners, and they very much need to rebound as well because that they need to keep up with your Bucks. So is this a game where Miami has some magic left in the tank as well, just like the Jets may have, or is this the game for Bijan to go nuts?
I would love to sit here and be like, Miami, thank you. I would love to have that feeling, but no, come on, dude. Tua, after every game, sits there and throws his team under the bus. Guys don't do this. Guys don't do that. Do you think anyone wants to play for that man?
No. I do not.
I wouldn't be surprised if an offensive lineman accidentally trips or something, and Tua takes a hit to the chest, and that's it. He's out for the game. Like, I'll be honest. I think this team is just a hot mess. Coach McDaniel just needs to move on, like literally, like just give it up, dude. Like, this team, I don't know what happened. A few years ago, this team was a high-powered offense. There was talk of them, being in the AFC mix, and now they're just a hodgepodge of mess, talking bad about each other. So, in a perfect world, Atlanta should be able to get their mess together and beat Miami. Now, it is Atlanta. Who knows? They're always a tale of two halves. First half, Penix is looking great. Everyone's like, oh, Michael Penix, unbelievable, blah, blah, blah. Then the second half, he can't throw worth a spit, and they don't use, Bijan. Bijan's on the bench for 3/4 of the second half, and it's a cluster. So,
yeah, very bizarre decision.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Raheem Morris, baby. Woot, woot. Coach of the year there. But Atlanta should be able to handle this game, and they should win.
I also feel like the clock is ticking towards McDaniel just pulling the plug on Tua and putting in Quinn Ewers to hopefully save some kind of face that maybe he'll get another job down the road. Show like, hey, I can do something with, a kind of unpolished, raw quarterback prospect.
No, very well could be. I think if he survives the whole season, if it's to the point where they get eliminated and they've got some games left, all right, or maybe he's just like, what, I'm just going to ride this out with Tua. I don't care. I'm gone at the end of the season. It's really tough because when you see, McDaniel like walking around and stuff, the guy looks like he hates his life.
Yeah.
Like, he looks so depressed. Like, I have to come here again. He's like a guy who works at Subway, and he's like, I hate my life. He's like, I hate this place. I hate my boss. I hate these people. Like, he's just a bitter old man. I don't know. But
could you see Mike McDaniel asking if you wanted to upgrade to a large popcorn for 25 cents more?
Could you see him trying to sell you a combo at the movies? Here, you want some what combo should we offer? Because he's just gonna be like, no, I don't care about this. Here's your candy. Here's your gummy worms. I don't care. Get out of here. Like, it's just he's a bitter guy, and I think he needs a change of scenery. But who knows? Maybe if Miami pulls this off, then maybe something kicks in, and maybe they become a team to watch out for. But right now, Atlanta should handle this.
Definitely a team that is in a must-win situation is the Houston Texans. They return home off that Monday night loss where they could not stop Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they welcome in no more an easier task than trying to shut down Christian McCaffrey, who, despite all the injuries on the Niners, has still put together a masterful season thus far. Is this the fork, the nail in the coffin for the Texans if the Niners run wild on them?
Yeah, I think at this point, if they can't handle the mash unit and somehow scrape up a win, then yeah, I think at that point you start, even though you still got a good chunk of season left, I think a lot of people are going to start saying, okay, time to move on to next year. They're going to just start, the questions are going to come up even more and more. What's wrong with CJ? What's the deal? We know you've had people injured and all, but a couple of years ago, this team was on the verge of being, an AFC dynasty. We thought, this young team was going to be great, and they are a shell of their former selves. So they're going to have to really put it together. You got to give the Niners credit. They figure out a way to win. Mac Jones, CMC, and a bunch of oddball parts that they've thrown together, and they've been able to win games. So I don't know what we're going to get from Houston. I really don't. But I think the Niners are a dangerous team because they're like, yeah, we're hurt, but you know what? We're still winning.
How much?
No, go ahead.
How much faith do you have in the Texans that they could turn it around in this game, or try to get somewhat back into it, or do you think it will just be a foregone conclusion? Kind of lost all faith, and this will be the Niners win.
The run game is rough. So it's basically CJ and Nico and whatever they can put together. They really need a run game. They really need a run game to almost headline this offense to take the pressure off CJ. They don't have that. And like I've said hundreds of times, doesn't matter how elite your defense is. If they're always on the field, they're going to give up points sooner or later because they're tired. It's human nature. They're tired. They can't hold up forever. So I don't know if they have it. I really don't.
Well, I would certainly be a pretty big Niners fan if didn't have to worry about the Texans for any more this year.
Go Niners.
So I know it's a favorite topic of yours to discuss the Ravens. I know it's a favorite topic of yours to discuss the Cowboys. I know it's a favorite topic of yours to discuss Aaron Rodgers, and I know it's a favorite topic of yours to discuss the Bengals. However, your most favorite topic, the red hot Kansas City Chiefs, hosting on Monday night a Jayden Daniels less Washington team.
I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that mess.
Are you sticking the fork in Washington after presumably what will occur this Monday night?
Dude, like I'm not watching that. I'm hoping the World Series is on because I'm not watching that mess. Like literally, I think it is. It's gonna be like a 38-7 fiasco. It's gonna suck. Do I put the fork in Washington? Well, here's the thing. If it's a high ankle sprain, that's a couple weeks. It's not like you're coming back the next week. So if it's a full, high ankle sprain, that's like 3 to 4 weeks easy. Marcus Mariota, I don't think can carry them, through it all. I don't have their schedule in front of me, so I don't know who the next like 3 or 4 games are. But if they don't have Daniels at 100%, this team has no chance. So if you're telling me if you can tell me that he's not back for at least the next 3 games, I don't know. I think you have to kind of start to sit there and say, maybe the Giants go on a run and catch them.
I know you'd love to say that the Chiefs' run here is fool's gold, but based on what you've seen against the competition that they've played, how much do you weight the Chiefs as fool's gold because they other than the Lions, they've kind of been playing a softer schedule, or do you think the Chiefs really are legit and they've kind of turned the corner and, well, I don't want to say turned the corner, but band-aided their issues enough to make it by and stay in the mix here?
Wow. It's tough because they beat the Lions and it was like a Jekyll and Hyde situation because the defense for the Lions was nowhere to be found, and then next thing you know, they show up last week. I don't know. And it's not Chiefs hate or anything like that, but yeah, now they're playing they're playing a Washington team doesn't have Jayden Daniels, and so it's gonna be their defense is gonna pin their ears and hunt for Mariota. So that's like, unless Mariota's got a gem in him somewhere, I have to sit there and say, well, they won their game, and you don't get to pick who you play. That's who you beat the teams you're supposed to. So there's, in theory, should beat Washington. The wide receiver room has opened up. The running game I still think is suspect. This defense can be taken advantage of. I don't think it's as good as it was last couple years. It's still a formidable defense. So it's going to be interesting how this offense evolves. Now you have, all the wide receivers are back now. So you've got, Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown. So you can stretch the field now. So it's kind of like what it used to be where, they'd cover Travis. Mahomes would run around with his head cut off, but he'd find somebody open. So defenses are going to have to be, prepare for that. But the question is will the Chiefs' offensive line hold up? They're banged up a little bit. And will this defense be able to make the stops? Because there have been some games where they haven't made stops. So it's going to be interesting as the season progresses. But it's hard to say something this week because of who they're playing. Now, if they were playing, let's say the Eagles, and they handle business, then I'm like, well, I guess they're legit. They're real deal.
Well, and the sudden rebirth of Pacheco, it finally seems like the reign of Kareem Hunt is over. Pacheco's back. They're using him. He seems to be effective and whatnot. So that also aids the balance of Mahomes' passing attack.
Oh yeah, when you've got receivers available, at that point you've got to you can't stack the box. You've got to account for those receivers. So yeah, it opens things up. So it's going to be a situation where you look at the landscape of the AFC, which defense is best equipped to handle that. You'd have to say Denver. You'd have to say Denver matches up best because they're a young, fast defense. It's just their offense isn't as high powered as the Chiefs. So it's going to be, because I think at the end of the day, that's what this comes down to. Denver right now, it's Denver and KC because everybody else is. I don't trust Pittsburgh enough to say that they're going to, barge in there and handle business. I don't know. They're an older team. I don't know. And then, your high-powered Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Flacco's going to bust into Arrowhead and handle business.
That was mean, Bucks McGee. I thought you were going to say my high-powered Indianapolis Colts.
Well, we haven't talked about them. So you were sitting here telling me the high-powered offense of Cincinnati is
we're playing the Titans this week, and you're playing the Saints. There is no need to talk about our teams this week, Bucks McGee. Hopefully there is no need to talk about them on Sunday night either.
No, exactly. No, the Colts very well could be that team. That the Colts are putting up the most points in the league. They're doing their thing. That very well could, they could be the team. It's just one of those things where whose defense, because unfortunately right now we have to assume that, the Chiefs have found their magic elixir and are ready to, run roughshod and do their thing. Which team defensively matches up and can handle the Chiefs? Because I still think there are holes in the offense, and I think it's the offensive line. And I think you can slow the run game a bit. It's just going to be, where the Chiefs play. If the Chiefs go on the road, I think it's a better shot of beating them. I don't know what it's going to be. Like I said, there's still a whole lot of season left. But for me to say this week the Chiefs are 100% back, I can't because they're playing Washington and they should beat Washington.
Especially without Jayden Daniels. Well, maybe my Colts, I think we've got a chance to be 9-1 heading into Arrowhead, which would be the ultimate proving ground as for AFC supremacy.
Oh, if you guys go in there and handle business, then hey, you guys are the team to beat. There's no doubt about it. I will give it to you. You guys go in there 9-1 and handle business. You're the guys.
Let's go.
The air up there is nice and clean and crisp when you're smelling it. You just got to watch because the fall down sucks.
Oh, indeed it does. I hope to avoid that. I do not want to have that conversation on air, Bucks McGee. Well, a lot of must wins, potential fraudulent penthouse residents maybe coming in, and some potential forks to stick in some overdone steaks on Sunday. Bucks, will you take us off air with your final thoughts as we head into Ocho Week 8?
A lot of teams' futures depend on this week. Some people would say, oh, it's week 8. There's still time. You look at some of these teams, some of them are in must wins. Other ones, if they take a loss, they're okay. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you're on your way to playoff heaven. One person here believes on the geriatric arm of Joe Flacco. Others may not think that. But you know what? I'm feeling frisky this week. This may not turn out right, but I got 4 letters for you. And it ain't yeet. It's Jets. Jets, Jets, Jets.